So welcome everyone. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all to this session about startups in Asia. This session is being organized in the framework of a joint project we're doing financed by the EU, and it's about understanding the evolving startup ecosystems in Asia. The project focuses on a few countries, including India, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand. And I'm very, very lucky to have representatives from almost all the countries of the project here, and we have been working together on this in the past 18 months. So allow me to first just briefly announce who is here with us today. On my left, I have Dr. Krispaka Bunfon. I'm not able to pronounce this yet. She's the executive director of the National Innovation Agency in Thailand, and of course now already a very dear friend. Then I'm joined also by Dr. Pham Hong Quat on the very left side. He's the director of the National of NATEC in Vietnam. It's an agency that is about commercializing technologies in Vietnam. Then we have here Mr. Khairul Saleh, who is the director of community economic empowerment and entrepreneurship in the coordinating Ministry for Economic Affairs in Indonesia. And then next to him is also Ivan Sanjaja, who is the managing director of GEN Indonesia and a very, very dear friend. So I don't want to take up too much time, so I just will give you some brief introduction of the project and some of the main findings we have been seeing so far. So I think the first point is kind of obvious. The startup scene has gone global. You're here from many different countries around the world. Startups are not a phenomenon just in Silicon Valley anymore. We can see, for example, that Asia has emerged as one of the biggest hubs in the world. 1 in 4 investments take place now in Asia. And you can see that this is a part of a growing pie. You know, the venture capital in the world has grown by about 10 times in 10 years. And just last year, it accounted for about 0.5% of world GDP. That's an enormous amount of money that's pouring into startups at the moment, despite the capital winter that we have experienced following inflationary trends. You can also see that a lot of these startups are growing very fast. We talk about unicorns. And of course, there's a great kind of deal of variety of where they're based right now. So, you know, they're in more countries, they're in more cities, and making ecosystems kind of grow a bit faster. Now, in this chart, you can see a little bit of the history, if you want, of the dynamics of Asian startup hubs. In both axes, it's time. So it goes from 1990 to 2025. It's just to show you an idea of how the startups started to grow. You know, when did they first have 100 million venture capital investment? And then when did the share of investment in GDP surpass 0.1%? And you can see that, the first and pioneer hub was the US, where this kind of arbitrary, let's say, milestones were reached pretty early on. But then you have new hubs emerging in Asia that started having very large investments in the turn of the century, but really started accelerating from the 2010s onwards as new technologies made growth in startups much faster and new opportunities emerged with smartphones and so on. And then, of course, you have the newcomers that are kind of smaller hubs in terms of density. Apologies, the bubble size is the density, how many firms per population. So you can see that they're kind of smaller, a bit less dense than the mature hubs, but they're growing very fast. They have a very high share of investments in GDP, and that's because they do have some of those big unicorns. Now, of course, Asia is a very heterogeneous region. Here you can see that even though the share is declining over time, China still accounts for the majority of venture capital that goes to Asia, excluding, of course, Western Asia. I should have mentioned this in the beginning. But also we have very other large players, including India and Singapore. Now, in terms of the geography of these investments, as you might expect, very often they concentrate in capital cities. This is kind of expected because capital cities do concentrate financial and educational resources, But there are countries where we see greater variety because of their larger geography. For example, India and China, they have many more centers, or also for historical reasons like Vietnam that has at least a couple of big hubs. In terms of the specialization, we see that fintech and e-commerce play a very large role in many of the Asian hubs, but there's also a lot of variety. So in the smaller hubs, especially in Southeast Asia, we see that there's a lot of interest in e-commerce and fintech. Of course, these are hubs where the opportunities of a mobile-first population that wants also to use fintech to pay for these services in e-commerce has a a virtuous circle around these technologies. They're growing markets, of course, there's also growing investment interest, but then the more mature hubs or those that have, let's say, more resources, we also see that they go towards more deep tech, quote unquote, including AI and health and biotechnology and so on. Now, the local ecosystem density has been increasing over time. We see, for instance, that there is some kind of variety in terms of how many are your local investors versus your foreign investors. Some hubs like Vietnam are drawing more and more, are enabling more and more of their local investors to participate in the local scene. Some of you might have heard yesterday in ministerial discussions that Singapore plays a very large role as an investor in the region. So a lot of startups do register in Singapore, and a lot of Singaporean investors also invest in the other hubs around the region. But also a lot of the US investors are active, Chinese, Indian investors, and the like. Then there is a bit of a difference in how there's a distribution of resources geographically. Incubators and accelerators play a very large role, but these are not distributed very equally, of course, geographically. So here you can get a small view of how they are in Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand. Now, we have developed a framework to study the startup ecosystems that kind of looks at the different stakeholders that are important to make ecosystems flourish. Of course, what we need is a little bit of everything and very well connected. I think for those of you that were in the Startup Nation Summit plenary earlier, this point really came across very, very strongly. We have developed a framework to study the policy according to several gaps. So, if there is kind of, apart from this like enabling building blocks, the skills and talent, and the science base that we always look at. Let's say if we focus just on startups, we try to focus our policy analysis on whether there is enough financing, whether there are institutions that provide services and connections, whether there's enough markets, whether you're having some tools to transform mindsets, and where do you stand reforming legal frameworks. And I think I will end there. This is kind of like an exercise that we try to do with the team at NIA in Thailand. But this is still a draft, so don't quote. It's just a way. Huh? Draft.
No,
it's not published yet. So, just to see these gaps that we're talking about, and then seed to expansion. So how does your startup policy mix look like? A lot of this is provided by private sector. So, we will make a differentiation, what is private, what is public. But you can see, for instance, in this case, that Thailand has in place many tools to address different kind of gaps. And then, of course, it depends on how effective they are, how much budget you can spend on this, because you might have some seed capital, but maybe not enough to really go forward. Okay, so this was my presentation just to give you an introduction. And now I would like to invite Dr. Kritpaka to let us know what is Thailand's vision for the startup ecosystem and what are your main policy tools.
Thank you very much. I really like that the last slide that you present is the whole picture of the startup ecosystem development in Thailand. That I mentioned earlier that our organization slides might be a lot, but don't worry, I will spend time only 10 minutes, not more than that. Our organization is National Innovation Agency, that we are the one organization that have to taking care of the innovation policy and ecosystem in Thailand. When we're talking about innovation ecosystem, the startup ecosystem is very important that we try to work very hard to do our ecosystem to open from local to global and also to create entrepreneurship development in Thailand as well. As you mentioned, our organization have the operation framework providing the financial and technical support for development of innovation project after they completing from the R&D. It means that our organization not funding the money for the R&D, but we can do for the prototype and also the market testing and standard as well. And we are also the upgrading technology and innovative capability building by entrepreneurship development. That one we have NA Academy. If you saw the previous slide from Dr. Kerensky from the OECD, you will saw that we have so many program from the early stage of the student. We call the STEAM for Innovator. But second one, we have Startup Thailand League. We also have another program for the SME to the IBE. It means that we want to transform the SME to the innovation-based enterprise. And we also enhancing the network of the private enterprise. We also work very closely with the large enterprise in terms of the innovative organization, and we also doing business matching from the large enterprise and SME and the startup as well. And we also the promoting of the innovation culture and also the international partnership as well. And we have so many tools that you will see that we have entrepreneurship development, as I mentioned, Startup Thailand League program and also the NAA Academy and also STEAM for Innovators I mentioned. And we also have incubation program and accelerator program. For example, the SpaceX, the one on the top logo, that one is going to be accelerator program for the food technology. We work closely with the large enterprise in Thailand, the Thai Union, and also the biggest university, the My University, and also the Thai Bev is the biggest for the Thai beverage in Thailand. Under that project, we have also the Thai startup and the foreign startup join the project and also really success very well, and we run for almost 4 years already. And we also have the financial model for entrepreneurship. It's going to be for the open innovation and the thematic innovation. And we also have the area-based innovation. We work closely with regional area and the awareness and also the innovation system. You can see the picture that we try to work very hard for the escape and raise the bar from innovation capacity building in Thailand. We not work only in Bangkok, we also work closely with the regional side park that I mentioned, and we also work closely with international relationship in Southeast Asia and abroad as well. Because we believe that on the ecosystem development, only the domestic market in Thailand is not enough to create unicorn. If you want to have more unicorn, we have to reach to the global market. And we also have to change the mindset of startup to have the global mindset in that part. And you will see that there are the success story of the startup, that some of them, they are be unicorn already. And also you can see the picture. The first one will be the Flash Express, going to be the logistic, and also the excess money from the CP group or True Group to they are on the be the fintech. And also most of the startup in Thailand that way they are be unicorn, they are most related to digital technology. And our partner that very close in digital technology is also work with NA is going to be the Deepa that you might met him also. And you can see that the law of the cooperate in driving Thailand startup ecosystem is very important. The first wave related to the 6 years ago. The first group of the startup will be on the telecom. And the second wave will be from the banking and financing system. And the third wave will be the more volunteers. And right now, the large corporation in Thailand, for example, the PTT, CP, and also many types of BDMS for the medical, they're focusing on the expand of their business in terms of the business diversity, and also they have their own CVC to invent and also to invest in the startup as well. That's why that we have the really good motivative from them to do more in the startup ecosystem. And this one will be show our startup universe in Thailand. In the inner circle, we're talking about the partner from the university, government sector, private sector, and also the international association that we work closely. In the outer link, we're talking about the startup. If you're looking deep down inside that picture, we have the startup and we're so focusing on the deep tech startup. I heard so many people talking about the deep tech. For deep tech technology, we would like to focusing on the medical and also the food technology and also the digital as well and tourism that we would like to focus on this part as well. For the Startup Thailand League that I mentioned, we work closely with the 50 universities around Bangkok and the Thailand. That one we create many ideas from the business idea from the university, and we try to help them to improve to be the entrepreneurial and also register as the firm and go to the market in Thailand, and also try to get them to make more granting and investment in terms of the money, and possibly it's 100 million baht. We also have the global startup hub that one not only for the domestic startup. If you are the foreign startup, you can use our service as well. We can help you in terms of the advisory and also the networking and also the smart visa and also many things for the network that we can create. That one before the landing and launching program between Thailand and the global partner. And that one will be the other activity that you may see that we have so many parts. For the Global Startup Hub, we also have in different areas also. We have a northern part in Chiang Mai and in Bangkok, we work closely with Tourism Park. And for the EC, will be the economic corridor in Thailand. We have the Startup Hub service as well. And this one will be the startup visa that I mentioned. If you are the startup and would love to do the business in Thailand, we are certified that you are the startup and you can get the smart visa. That might quite easy for you to do the business in Thailand. And also the capital gain tax exemption. We just passed it one a few years, I think not almost 1 year, that if you are investment in the startup in the 14 category of the business, you will get the tax exemption. Not only the corporate taxation, but personal taxation exempt for the profit as well. That will help in terms of the investment for the corporate and the private sector as well. This one will be the outer activity and the network in Thailand. Okay, I don't think I can show more about that, but the one of the person had taken charge of South Thailand is the Kun Privat. He sit here as well. If you want to ask more about detail, he know more than me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chris Pakaran, for being timely. I didn't introduce you that well before. She's an intellectual property specialist. Yes, she has worked for a long time in the public sector, and she's an excellent academic as well. So if you have any IP questions later, do prepare them. Now I will move on next to Dr. Pham Hong Quat. I didn't pronounce very well the name of his agency before. It's a Market Development and Enterprise Development Agency. It's under the Ministry of Science and Technology of Vietnam. Dr. Quat obtained his degree in law from Hanoi Law University and his doctorate in law from Nagoya University in Japan. He's worked in various positions, and he's responsible for managing the National Startup Ecosystem Development Project in Vietnam, ongoing since 2016. Dr. Pham Hong Quat, we would love to hear from you.
Thank you, Vasiliki. And thank you very much for your very kind support for Vietnam. And we have a chance to introduce to all of you in this forum about the pictures on startup ecosystem in Vietnam, and how we are working on the initiative to push up the connection with the Asian countries. So you can see in my office is belong to the Ministry of Science and Technology. So we focus on the tech startup in every sector. How we can put this one? The next one. Okay. And over 10 years to build up the ecosystem in national level, we improve the positions of the Vietnam in the ranking global innovation index, and as well as the big cities like Ho Chi Minh City. Here you can see the improved much position. From the government point of view, each year we should propose to the Prime Minister at least one special regulations. I mean a kind of sandbox or any kind of specific rule to deal with the problem for startup and for investor. So here you can see the different initiative on policy making for SME, for big corporation, and for startup university. That is the main stakeholders involved in our ecosystem now. And here's the pictures overall. Well, we can compare to 2022, the last year, the picture is condensed, and all stakeholder now is have the equivalent and very good interaction among the stakeholders. The corporation now we encourage to support the startup, and from the government we set up some public center at the local level, and also business incubators and business accelerator within the university we are promoted. And similar to the Thailand, we have some initiative to encourage the private sector involved in this picture. And here's from the national level, we set up some public service center, I mean the one-stop shop service for startup, similar like Startup Hub in Thailand. And I visit Thailand, it's a very good story for us. And some big event we organize at the middle, the south and the north, because Vietnam is a long shape of country, so we organize some event along the Hanoi, Da Nang, and Ho Chi Minh City. And now we have proposed some initiative to cooperate with in Thailand. And maybe in next year we can organize some events in Ho Chi Minh City. I just visit Texas and to meet some big partner from Thai Innovation Agency. I think it's very good model to organize. And besides the public sector, we encourage the corporation innovation hub. The big corporation very important for us. They are the market, they are investor, partner, client for startup. So along with the public center, we intend to organize about 10 private one-stop shop service inside or beside the big corporation. And here's the Tech Fest in Vietnam. The biggest event to convince all the stakeholders nationally and internationally. This year we organized Tech Fest in Ho Chi Minh City in the end of November. And I would like to invite all of you, if you have a time, please come to Vietnam and encourage our ecosystem. And the way we organize the Tech Fest is we divide into different sectors. We name the technology villages. Now we have more than 30 villages focused on different sectors on the technology and economies. 5 groups in this way: the Future Lab and Tech Hub, Community Hub, Impact Hub, and Open Innovation Hub. That's our divide for the different motive and policy to push up in this sector. And open innovation philosophy is our now promote strongly from the government level and also from the city level. The workshop forums and own initiative to promote the international and national cooperation involved into the ecosystem, because after the COVID time, all the startup and SMEs are very difficult. They lack the resources from the financial market partner. So the big corporation is very important resources to help them to overcome the difficulties. And another initiative is promote the education. We promote now more than 170 universities and colleges. They have their own innovative entrepreneurship training course. And we also promote the STEM educations in elementary school. Entrepreneurship training institute we set up to help the university and college to educate the entrepreneurship and innovation in their program. The innovation network is important to build up the ecosystem within one country and also in the regional level. As I said that we now set up 3 kinds of network for mass media, for the centers and mentors, coach, and for the university colleges. We also set up the open innovation platform, and all the players, stakeholders can join and to play their own initiative. They have the problem, they have the challenges, and we publish the challenges for the startup incubator to deal with. And here's the next step for development, and we focus on some policy sandbox, especially the Ho Chi Minh City. They have this special sandbox for visa, for exam tax, and others. And open innovation platform, innovation entrepreneurship center, innovation corridor to link the different localities at the south and the south, the middle. Yeah, the champion network is also important for us. So we need your support to create the regional champion network. It's very important to promote the ecosystem. And the regional partner, I think we need to promote more initiative where we can help to each other. We can go around the event for each country and bring the resources, bring startup, mentor, investor for all of us. And we have some proposal for the collaboration between the Asian countries. We can propose a bilateral initiative, innovation partnership as a kind of event, workshop, training, and startup exchange. We can share the experience in policy making, and from the capacity building for the champion network, also for the training, innovation diffusion, soft landing, startup exchange, and cross-border innovation challenges for open innovation, as I would like to propose for this forum for the cooperation. Yes, thank you very much. I have my presentation. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Quat. And it's almost like it's a real privilege seeing the Vietnam ecosystem evolving almost in real time, because a lot of things have been happening in the last few years, and we can see you building the regulatory blocks and institutions that are necessary to foster the ecosystem. It's a very interesting journey. Now we move on to another ecosystem, Indonesia, with Ivan Sanjaya. So Ivan is a very, very good friend. We met last year in Riyadh, and I met him with his Gen manager hat. Then I found out he's also very involved in Kadin. He's vice chair of Kadin Permanent Committee for Entrepreneurship in Indonesia, which is the extended arm of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Then I realized he's also supporting the International Federation of Real Estate in Indonesia. And then to my surprise, I found out that he has a degree in chemical engineering from the Technical University in Berlin and also from San Diego. So, this is a person that really clearly knows a lot, has many, many interests, and he has been the soul of the project when it comes to the Indonesian arm. Really, Ivan, thank you for being here today. So take us to the Indonesian ecosystem, please.
Thank you, Vasiliki. I'm really glad that you actually have brought OECD to the region, because before OECD was not quite involved in looking into Asian ecosystem, but because of your great contribution now that OECD is also is interested in looking at the startup ecosystem in Asia, particularly here in Southeast Asia, because I strongly believe that Asia in general will be also the center of the global economy in the years to come. Let me begin with my slides because here I will be sharing the talk with my colleague, Mr. Khairul from the Indonesian government. So I'm just gonna bring a little bit about the overview of the Indonesian ecosystem as of today, being the largest country in Southeast Asian region. Indonesia is certainly also an attractive market for foreign businesses next to our neighbor Singapore. And based on the prediction of the World Bank, Indonesia by 2030 could become the fourth or the fifth largest economy in the world, simply because we are having a demographic bonus as of today, with a huge population of about 270 million people, whereby half of them are under the age of 30 years old. So that means we have a lot of young people in the country who certainly have the great potential to become sort of the shaper of the next for the future of the country. And but we have to be certainly careful that such demographic bonus could also turn into a demographic curse if we do not do the right things and do the things right, what we need to do, particularly in bringing entrepreneurship into life. So, and according to the research done by Startup Genome, the capital city of Indonesia, Jakarta, for now still until next year, because next year we will have a new capital city about 1,200 kilometers away from the existing ones. Jakarta is still the center of the Indonesian ecosystem, and it is ranked fourth as the top 5 emerging ecosystem in the world. Yeah, before it was even number 2. I think it was in 2019 after Copenhagen at that time. So, and of course, Indonesia is also a member of the G20 country with the GDP, annual GDP over $1 trillion and growing. And the ecosystem itself, as of now, is valued almost $30 billion. Yeah, that is why it is called emerging. Yeah, and the size of the internet economy in Indonesia is last year was about $77 billion, and it will be doubled by 2025. Yeah, or at least double. Yeah. And the top sectors in the digital economy in Indonesia is still certainly dominated by the e-commerce, followed by the transport and F&B, and then the online travel as well as online media, with average growth of about 17 to 19% per annum. Looking at the capital being invested in Indonesia, it's been growing tremendously from 2020. Looking at the, of course, impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have about $3.3 billion invested in 2020, but last year in 2022, it has grown to $4.2 billion. But these are, of course, all the funding rounds that are known to the public, because certainly there are also investment being done without being disclosed to the general public. And as it was said before, the top sector where most of the investors are interested in pouring their money in certainly is the least risky business. So they invested their money usually in the existing growing business. Companies like Gojek, which is the Indonesian version of Grab, yeah, that offer, it started as a ride-hailing company, but now it has become a super app where basically they also offer various services from paying your utility bills, getting your food, of course, getting your ride, also other things such as services of household services and travel. The internet penetration is interesting for Indonesia because, of course, Indonesia has a lot of people. Yeah, in 2009, the number of internet user in Indonesia was only about 30 million, and around that time, I think the number of population is already above 200 million. But in 2020, the number has been increased to 150 million people, so it has increased rapidly. So if you look at the charts here, yeah, out of 276 million people that we have, almost 354 million people are actually connected with the internet, yeah, or the internet users in Indonesia is around 213 million. So almost everybody is connected to the internet, yeah. So, and of course, if you look at the people who are active in social media, that's more than 160 million people. So they're very active in not only Facebook, Instagram, now X, former Twitter, everything else, YouTube. So that is always certainly the top internet social media that they are using. Yeah. So, and if you see the increase over time, the number of internet users increase over time. So it has grown also rapidly from 20 years ago to today. Yeah. So I will not go each one by one. Yeah. So because of the time consuming. But I want to say a few more things about doing business in Indonesia. It's still pretty challenging. Give me one more minute. So, because Indonesia is still ranked 73rd in terms of business complexity, with challenges primarily not in regulatory issues, but first and foremost, getting the money, the funding for the investment, and talent. Despite all these challenges, we do see potential sectors that is sort of promising in Indonesia. First and foremost, certainly for the green tech landscape, sustainability businesses, because Indonesia is also, especially the government, is pushing a lot on the use of electric vehicles, yeah. So, and we also have the resources available locally, such as nickel, the primary component for the batteries, and also for the energy sectors and waste management. And last but not least, the other promising sector that is also growing in Indonesia is health tech, yeah. Some of the companies now, startup companies have been created in that particular sector, coming from pharmacies, e-pharmacies, teleconsultation, all the way to doctor, directory, and booking platforms. Thank you.
Thank you for this very comprehensive overview of the Indonesian ecosystem, its opportunities and challenges. Fascinating. We have to talk more. Let me move on now to our last speaker for today, Dr. Kairul. You have a very crucial role in the Ministry of Coordinating of the Economy. So actually we look to you to give us some solutions as to how government could coordinate and implement policies to really foster the ecosystem in Indonesia. So could you let us know your views about the ecosystem and maybe some of the key tools that you have in place? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vasiliki. Good morning, everyone, the honorable all speakers, Mrs. Vasiliki, Pak Ivan, and honorable ladies and gentlemen, as a participant. I would like to share with you in the government perspective of Indonesia about the experience and also the current progress. This is the overview as a background of Indonesia digital economy, and most of it Pak Ivan already mentioned. That's with the biggest population, more than 2,070 million people in Indonesia, is a potential issue that for the developing digital economy. Indonesia digital economic value is the largest in ASEAN, reaching 77 billion in 2022, and showing positive growth trends, with prediction keep going up to 130 billion in 2025, and will be continue increase in the year of 2030. And the point is, during the COVID-19, 3 years COVID-19 is also the trigger for the digital economy in Indonesia to increase significantly, which is this the impact for the government policy, limit the mobility of people as physically. So we practice less economic contact, which is people enforced to connect each other, even in the economic transaction, in digital, not physically. So that's why in the next slide, in the below of the next slide, we can see that e-commerce to be the most prominent of subsector of digital economy. This I would like to show you in this slide. And also following with the other subsectors, transport and food, online travel, and online media. And I'd like to tell you that in terms of government, also have a government startup. Due to the COVID, we have Peduli Lindungi, which is the health tech of government, and now keep growing. At the initial digital platform, the Peduli Lindungi, only for the screening for the COVID-19, for the person who want to move from the region to other region. It's for assessment, the assessment of COVID for the screening. And now it keep grow, government grow the platform to be the health tech, all of the health tech issue, which is it connected with the hospital, with the mini hospital, we call it social services for the health, and also to the pharmacy and the doctor, of course. And digital sector investment to be prominent and continuous grow, as we see in the below right hand, and for the fintech to be the most subsector address for the investor. Next slide. And for the rank, Pak Ivan also said that Indonesia position in the sixth in the region compared to other countries. And Indonesia also have 2,511 units, as I mentioned in my keynote yesterday. And Indonesia already has 2 decacon. And we can see this GoTo and GNT to be decacon, and unicorn, national unicorn, Bukalapak, Traveloka, Kopi Kenangan, Ticket.com, and so on. And similar with Pak Ivan presentation, that Indonesia to be a top 5 emerging ecosystem value, and Jakarta to be the epicentrum of the top emerging region. These opportunities and challenges, we already know that Indonesia consists of 1,000 islands across from west to east, north to south, Sabang to Merauke, Rote Island to Miangas. And all people are also domicile across the island, from the urban up to the remote region. And issue of the demography, economy is also to be opportunities, however, we can see. And it makes the challenges we need to overcome, that lack of qualified digital talent, lack of good understanding of business strategy, and also the market competition, and the access, of course, access the market, and rapid technology development, which is we cannot follow, and imbalance between demand and available talent, and so on. This all of the internal factors and external factors. And let's continue this the current policy, the intervention or government initiative. We can see that our ministry currently exercise the national strategy for digital economic development, which is the goal. We want to accelerate the growth and also the inclusivity amongst the people across the region. We focus on the infrastructure, development, human resource, business climate, and cybersecurity, and also research and development. And we keep to exercise the funding, research, and the investment. And in terms of the startup, and as we mentioned as another terminology as entrepreneurship, we have a national entrepreneurship development guidance up to 2024. This I discussed to all my colleagues yesterday. What next if this regulation end up next year? The regulation covers all the thematic of the business model, technology entrepreneur, youth entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, woman entrepreneur, and village entrepreneur. And we need collaboration in the spectrum of pentahelix support, which involve business, academic, government, community, and media. And we have a whole government approach to do that. We intervene the policy infrastructure and the human capital, source of financing, accessibility to market, support system, and cultural support. However, as we have a constraint in the level of standard understanding in between or amongst inline ministry. Often we have different treatment, a similar treatment for the SMEs owner and for the entrepreneurship or the startup owner. I think we need to make sharpen for the understanding. And this several program coming from the inline ministry, some ministry have been implementing a program related to the development of startup. As we can see, for example, Ministry Communication and Information Digital Talent Development, with the achievement already make an intervention for 1,400 pioneer startup. And also we can see that Ministry Cooperative and SMEs will set up the digital platform, single digital platform for single data. We combine it in between platform for incubator institution and also for the entrepreneur. Yes, sorry, please. And for this, another is Minister also provide program including training, coaching, and mentoring. And we try to set up the Science Technopark, which is located in the several university, to invite their support for the collaboration. However, cross-ministerial and multi-sector synergy should be encouraged continuously to form a startup development ecosystem that makes more massive for the achievement. And next slide. Just now we has the host ASEAN chairmanship for 2023, and in that forum, one of forum discussed about digital economy, and we have several initiatives to others government partner as a member of the ASEAN to develop digital economy. The initiative DEFA, we call it DEFA, Digital Economy Framework Agreement. And during the Indonesian chairman ASEAN in 2023, last month, we have achieved this DEFA initial draft, and the launching of ASEAN DEFA negotiation at the 23rd ASEAN Economic Committee Council meeting last September on 3, chaired by our minister. And I think this is the effort to double the potential digital economy will also encourage the startup development in ASEAN region. The government of Indonesia, through some ministry, has also collaborated with other countries, as I mentioned. And what next? Further policy needs. In relation with the previous slide that our regulation will be ended at 2024, I think we need more sharing knowledge on development of the policy for the next period. However, we need to standardize the level of understanding, the leveling of the coverage, which substance, which aspect should be addressed to the new regulation to make the regulation more effective to accelerate the growth of the startup or entrepreneur. I think that's all my presentation. And finally, I hope the discussion can give all the insight and valuable for us, and happy to sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I know we don't have a lot of time left. The timer here says 7 minutes, so I think that's plenty for some questions. So I would like to invite you, the audience, first, if there's any questions, please feel free to ask. Is there anybody? If there's not, that's perfect, because actually I do have questions. So more time. Okay, let me start from Dr. Kritpaka. So I mentioned earlier that you're an IP specialist. In your opinion, are there still some barriers for Thai startups when it comes to IP, getting their IP, making value out of it? What's your opinion?
Yes. Before that, I think almost 5 years ago, most of the startup doesn't understand what is the intellectual property. When they do about the new business, new idea, new technology, they forgot to register from the patent or maybe the copyright, but they try to go to the market, and after that, they just realize that they cannot register for the patent because it's not new anymore. But after that, we try to educate them and teach them how to know about intellectual property management. We start with the university and the sci park around the Thailand to create a program and teach them to know the one module of the educational for the startup will be the intellectual property management. That's why the issue is quite low right now, and most of the startup they know about the IP management and register before public and before selling the product. Okay.
Thank you. That's very interesting. I'm glad that there is policy support that trying to address this issue. If I move on to Dr. Quat, yes. I was wondering, you mentioned that open innovation is a big part of your future strategy for Vietnam. So what are the key barriers you're encountering when you're trying to implement the open innovation strategy in Vietnam? What are the main challenges there?
The main challenges for the open innovation encouraging policy is the big corporation seems to be hesitate to work with the startup. They don't believe much about the capability to deal with the big challenges faced by the corporation. Second one, they think that the duty to foster, to train, mentor for startup is belong to someone else other than the director of the big corporation, because their personnel very limited times and many challenges to give the time for startup. And the third one is market. The market is even they have the network, they have their own ecosystem, they have the market partner, but the way to involve the startup product into the market is very challenges. The first user, the leading user is very important. Who will be the testing user for the startup product? That's all we need the support from the pioneer volunteer big corporation now in Vietnam. We select among three big corporation and cooperate with some other international corporation to be the first user of the product of the startup. That way we encourage them to set up the open innovation inside the corporation, invite the talent, invite startup, and mentor into their own ecosystem. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Are there any questions yet from the audience? Yeah? Yeah, of course. You can ask.
Yeah, for the Thailand and Vietnam experience, if I'm not mistaken, that in your presentation, you mentioned that you have a special agency for the startup who focus on with the program to accelerate. And if you don't mind to share what's the background, what's the history, what's the spirit to set up that agency, I would like to know, because our program of entrepreneurship still sketches and fragmented, managed by many ministries or many agencies. That's why I need to consolidate in only one single agency. Please, thank you.
I will go first. Actually, come back to the 6 years ago, we have the scattering of the people who do the ecosystem. But after that, the government mentioned about who will be the secretary of that committee, and our organization got appointed to be our secretary of the group. And after that, we are like the center of the startup ecosystem because of the government pointing to be there. Because before that, our organization not only to support the startup, we focusing on the SME first, and next move to the startup as the national agenda. Thank you.
In Vietnam case, actually we deal with a similar situation. Many different public agencies concern the policy making, running, supporting program for startup. But in our views, we propose to Prime Minister is that the public sector do not do something instead of the private sector. The business model and everything concerning the money market should be the roles of the public private sector. And the public agency just provide some services that the private sector do not, or they don't want to provide. For example, IP service, intellectual property service, training program, or soft landing, extending the market, the event, something like that. So in my Ministry of Science and Technology, we provide the services concerning the R&D, technology testing, the intellectual property, and something concerning the technology. But the Ministry of Education, for example, they can run the program for training, for incubation inside the university, for example. And the Ministry of Economics or Investment provides some capital funding, something like that. In each agency, they have the specific policy and program for the startup ecosystem. I think it's our lesson from our views. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're really out of time now, even though we started later. Just sorry to the next team. Thank you so much for making the time, for traveling to be here. And thank you to the audience for patiently listening to all the beautiful presentations. Let's take these conversations outside and connect further. Thank you so much, everyone.